Right. Very good evening, one and all. Today we are going to talk about indicators of economic development. The concept of economic development. What are the indicators of development? Particularly, no physical quality of life index, human development index, and multi-dimensional poverty index. There are some other basic needs approach and the gender-related development index, gender empowerment measures. This we are going to discuss now. See, when we are talking about the economic development, it means the transformation of how the income to the high income society, from low income to high income of the society. The development process, the transformation from the low income to higher income society. The process, particularly the economic development, when we observe, it is no complex phenomenon because it influences various factors such as economical changes, social changes, cultural factors, and economic development that sustain the growth. At the same time, per capita income also influence accompanied by a production reduction of the poverty rate and expanding economic opportunities for all the sectors and particularly for the people development in multi-dimensional process which all are involved in a social structural changes popular national institutions as well as acceleration of economic growth. So here development process that it creates all the people can expand their capabilities with when we provide opportunities. So that is simply we can say that economic development process. So what are the indicators are there that economic development that cannot be aspects of a economy that undergoes of changes. So economic development that do not only the quantitative increase in GDP or GNP of the country, but also institutional technological changes that are required to increase the GNP. So there are many factors that are influencing, particularly, we need to measure the economic development. The economic development, when we look into the concept side, it is broader concept. It may be, when we talk about the indicators of economic development that shows different phases which helps to understand the concept as well as economic development in the country. So there are various indicators are there to measure the economic development. One of the indicator, gross national product. Gross national product. So most of the economists they focus on that they believe whenever there is an increase in the GNP that leads to increase the economic development. So increase in the GNP is considered as a economic development. If there is an increase in the GNP means the country's economic development has been, high. So national income, and when we talk about the total market value of all final goods and services, particularly produced within the country during the 1 year, we calculate per 1 year. So here the GNP, gross national product, to be important factor to measure economic development because as compared to the current prices, the income are higher than the real one. Hence, the GNP computed at constant prices. If we consider that, then that is real indicator of the economic development. So instead of current prices, we need to calculate, we need to compute with the constant prices. That is considered as real indicator of development. So gross national product, it is an indicator for economic development with certain limitations. It does not take an account of population growth. It does not denote efficiency of labor, consumption of goods and services, welfare of the labor. So if higher the production is achieved with the help of mechanization that leads to labor, that leads to unemployment, and ultimately decline the welfare of the labor. So GNP does not count the value of some activities which we cannot measure with respect to money. So this is one side. The another measure or indicator of economic development is per capita income. So in this per capita income, as increase in per capita income, that indicates that economic development is there in that particular country. So per capita income, how do we calculate this? We derive the per capita income, national income with population of the country. So national income by population, we get per capita income. National income by population, we get per capita income. So here, the average income of the people particularly may not increase when the growth of population is higher than the national income. As we know that, because average is declines due to high population, the per capita income comes down or decreases. So here, according to UN expert committee, they have the per capita income to be an important measure or important indicator for economic development. According to Lewis and Lebestein, Heberler, the increase in the real per capita income that leads to increase the welfare of the country. So here, when we are talking about the physical quality of life index, gross national product, per capita income, these are not true indicators for measuring the development of the country because they do not distinguish, they do not explain the distribution of income and wealth. So basically, when we consider the account, particularly the country's average output, total output, that is changes in the growth. So therefore, PQLI, Physical Quality Life Index, is an indicator for economic development. PQLI, Physical Quality Life Index, it is a composite, particularly it is a measure of fulfillment of basic needs that leads to improve the quality of life. When we provide, when we measure at least the basic needs, basic requirements. This has been developed by Morris, 1979, on behalf of Washington, based on the mm, Development Council. So PQLI, it represents to be a good indicator or index to measure the economic development of the country because The aim of the economic development is to improve the life of the quality of life. So the PQLI is used to better to measure the development of the country. There are this PQLI calculated by using you know three components. PQLI is measuring through the three components. One is no percentage of illiterate of people, literacy, particularly expectancy, which is you know at 1 year of age, infant mortality rate. So here, infant mortality rate is you know is a good index. Availability of sanitation and clean drinking water facilities in the country, as infants are most affected in particularly due to waterborne diseases. So life expectancy, the indicator that due to nutrition and health services, how it is providing within the country. So literacy rate, this indicates that the progress of education system in India or developing countries when we are talking about. So increase in the PQLI that leads to how the people benefited in terms of these three indicators or components. Life expectancy increased, infant mortality has to be decreased. As usual, life literacy levels, particularly that has to increase. Here, three measures, three components, as I said, illiteracy, life expectancy, and infant mortality rate. These two, infant mortality has to be decreased, remaining two has to increase. That we have to remember. So the increase in PQLI, physical quality life index, these indicators that that indicates the country is developed. Based on this value, if these values are high, then we can say that the country is developed. So this is possible only when the access of health, medical facility and education, and what are the facilities are provided, education facilities to the country, that automatically increase. Another important measure or indicator is HDI, Human Development Index. United Nations Development Program, they introduced the HDI, the first human development report, which was published in 1990. This HDI, formulated by Professor Mahabub ul Haq, Pakistan economist. The development is taken place, particularly the most important of this choice, when we can say that long and healthy, and how to provide an education system and standard of living of the people. In addition to this, political freedom, human rights, self-respect, we also consider or ensure. So according to Mahabub ul Haq, HDI enlarges the all human choices, particularly economic, social, political, and cultural, while economic growth that focuses on choice, expansion of income. Superiority of HDI, Human Development Index, over economic growth, that is HDI is, and so economic growth is only means to the end. So how we can calculate the Human Development Index, HDI? See, the HDI is calculated by considering achieving the three factors: life expectancy at birth, education, living standard in terms of per capita, So life expectancy is one indicator or one factor. Education is the another factor. Living standard of, in terms of per capita. These are the three factors that are, calculated through these factors. So here, when we know, there is a, for calculation, there is a formula calculating of this HDI index. Actual value minus, minimum value divided by maximum value minus minimum value. We get, index value, HDI. So here, life expectancy at birth, minimum at least, 25 years, and the maximum is 85 years. And the actual value will be, we can observe. From that, we can calculate easily. And the education also, minimum is 0 and maximum is 100. Gross enrollment ratio, minimum is 0, maximum is 100. So we are calculating with the, these values. Living standard of, per capita income with respect to, a US dollar, or when we are considering, that is related to, HDI, Human Development Index. The another one is Human Poverty Index. In the way of limitation, when we, consider PCI, per capita income, as an index of, development, UNDP developed two alternative indices to compare the level of, development progress, particularly within the country. So one of these, two indices is Human Poverty Index. The other is HDI, in its, HDR. So the HPI, Human Poverty Index, which is based on three main indices. Human Poverty Index is based on three main indices. One is, when we talk about the percentage of people not expected to survive their age of, 40, and adult literacy rate is the another one. Deprivation of index, particularly, based on the three variables that are, considered. So a percentage of population without, access of safe drinking water, percentage of population access to the health, percentage of, uh, the underweight of, children below the 5 age, this human poverty index that reflects the deprivation of, in within the country's health, how this education system is there, and standard of living we can calculate. So this, decrease in human poverty index indicates there is a development in the country. This poverty index, that value has to decrease. Human poverty index has to comes down. Then there is a increase in the development in the country. That we have to remember. Multi-dimensional poverty index. No, as I said, human poverty index that could not identify a specific, individuals, households, or large group of peoples who are, jointly deprived. It is unable to identify, not possible to calculate. To overcome this type of problems, UNDP, first introduced the multi-dimensional poverty index in 2010 in replacing of, human poverty index. So now it is multi-dimensional Poverty Index 2010 onwards. So here, this can be, multi-dimensional poverty is product of two aspects when we look into this dimensional. One is, share of peoples who know the multi-dimensional poor, and the another one is average number of deprivations in each dimensional poor households, and that intensive of the poverty. So here, when we are talking about this, households who deprived in multiple indicators at the same time, the multidimensionally they are poor. It includes the, there are almost 10 components are there. So possession of assets, nutritional food, how they are, checking, children's mortality rate, how they are, access of drinking water, sanitation facilities, shelter also going to be considered, electricity, improve the cooking oil, and years of schooling age, enrolling in school age. A person is said to be, multidimensionally poor if he or she deprived at least, 2 to 6 of the weighted indicators of this multidimensional. At least 30% of these indicators. These 10 indicators that reflect, dimensions of HDI, health, education, standard of living. So along with this, we are, we can get, accurate measures with the help of multidimensional poverty index. So that based on this, whether the country is developed, developed or the country is underdeveloped or developing country, we can easily understand. Coming to the basic needs approach, see, this gives the importance particularly to meet the basic needs of people. According to basic needs approach, the position of material needs, particularly shelter, cloth, and food, and access to the essential public services. It may be drinking water, sanitation facilities, health and education, public transport within the country. These all are the indicators for the development of the country. So therefore, the development index in terms of production, the goods and services, we need to know vast masses. So here in this basic needs, the laborers' life, production necessities of life, the technology techniques they are using, consumer goods, particularly local resources with the eradication of poverty, unemployment, inequalities, all these indices are indicators the development according to this approach. The another one is net economic welfare index. Net economic welfare index. This view of welfare of the people ultimately the goal of economic development. Net economic welfare. What does it mean? The welfare of the people, ultimate goal of the development. Particularly developing countries or underdeveloped countries, they have to focus more on the welfare of the people. So here, particularly according to Williamson, Tobbins, they formulated this index, this net economic welfare index, particularly to improve the income index. the value of leisure, services of house, you know, they added to the national income and the cost of the pollution and discomforts, particularly urbanization, which are deducted from the national income to measure the economic welfare. If sufficient of leisure, adequate services provided by the housewives that increase the welfare of the society, not just their income. At the same time, no pollution, urbanization that causes by the development activities, that decrease the welfare of the people. So according to this net welfare index, economic welfare index, this approach increase in the welfare of the people that indicates there is a development in the economic development in the country. The another one is gender related development index, GDI, gender development index. This GDI or gender empowerment 1995 they focused for development of women, how they are improved economically. This GDI gender development index that reflects inequalities between men and women in the development. So HDI indicates overall development of the people, but it does not reflect the status of women in their regard, in this regard, particularly when we are consider human development index. But when women lag behind the men in the three components that measures the HDI, so this HDI may be higher, but the status of women may not be same as men in the country. So the women, particularly uh, without the development of women, the development achieved in is there is no meaning. So this is the reason why the GADI, Gender Related Development Index, which is introduced, if HDI and GDI are equal, then there are no inequalities between men and women. If GDI is less than HDI, it shows that women is backward compared to the men in the development. So it is very easy to understand that gender related development index, which is both HDI, Human Development Index, as well as GDI, as both are equal, then there is no inequalities between men and women. If the GDI is less than the HDI, then there is a backward of uh, uh, a woman. We can say that. Gender empowerment measures, GGM, empowerment measures. This is also one of the indicator of development in the country. We can measure. As we know that Human Development Report 1995 introduced, it shows the development of women from their empowerment angle. The empowerment of women that must be for their development. Gender empowerment measures that indicates particularly the women are able to achieve or participate in the economic and political life. Women empowerment means control over their lives and surroundings, the related resources. For estimating women empowerment of these three aspects, there are when we consider, one is political participation, which measured by particularly the women's share in parliament seat, and the another one is economic participation, which measures the share of high level professionals and management positions, that is economic, and the another one is power over the resources that are that measures by uh, sharing the particularly the earner's income. So if the women have to control over these three aspects, then they are treated as empowered. They are treated as empowered. They have to participate in political. They have to economically participated, particularly professionals or management positions. Power has to over economic resources, particularly their shares of their earning incomes. That is related to gender empower measurement. So here, the social progress index, when we look into these aspects, it is another important index to of development. It is based on the writings, particularly it related to Amartya Sen and also Joseph Stigler. It consider non-economic factors such as social and environmental factors rather than economic factors for assessing the well-being of the society. Social progress index. So wellness, equality, inclusion, sustainability, personal freedom and safety, which all are included in the social and environmental factors, particularly the social and progress index, which measures how the how far these social and environmental needs are provided for the citizens in the progress of their development. That is we consider. So good social and environmental conditions that indicates that there is a development in the country. That is related to different different measurements of or indicators of development. When we are talking about the development or underdevelopment, what are the characteristics of underdeveloped countries? What are the factors hindering the economic development? Factors how it is promoting the economic development. When we observe this as the term underdevelopment is related to the you know the country which is so here the term underdeveloped country is related to one where underdeveloped countries their per capita income is very low, and also even when we observe their resources are abundant, human resources are abundant. The most of the Western economists, when we look into the lack of development, that is underdevelopment, lack of development, we call it as underdevelopment. Economists they try to define different definitions for underdevelopment by using different criteria, particularly population land ratio, ratio of industrial and output, and per capita income of the ratio, poverty, per capita income, which all are various criteria different economists they have used. According to Indian Planning Commission underdevelopment is the state of coexistence of unutilized or underutilized human resources, particularly natural resources in the economy. So here Jacob Weiner also defined the underdeveloped countries as the countries which have higher population, which have higher natural resources, or which are using more existing resources that are prospects of that provides high living of standard to current population, that provides present high living of standard to larger population of the country, according to Jacob Weiner. When we are talking about the no characteristics of underdeveloped countries, characteristics of underdeveloped countries. Most of the Western countries, economists think that underdevelopment is just lack of development. Simply, we can say that what is underdevelopment? Lack of development, we call it as underdevelopment. From this point of view, when we observe Latin America, some of the African countries and Asian countries, they can easily characterized by, or we can say that underdeveloped countries are less developed countries, because low per capita income, it is one of the characteristics of underdeveloped countries. Low per capita income. If the country's per capita income is very low, then we can say that this country is related to underdeveloped country. Here, the developing countries, there are different countries are having different, variations are there, differences are there among the underdeveloped countries. It may be, in terms of geographical area, in terms of, when we talk about the population, country to country is different. Income levels also different from country to country, particularly these underdeveloped countries. Resources are endowment, occupational structure also different. The role of government in the economy and income inequalities, poverty in the economy, historical background of political structure, all are different from particularly the underdeveloped countries, different country to country. However, when we observe these underdeveloped countries, most of the developing countries have common characteristics. And when we talk about the developed countries, so these underdeveloped countries or developing countries have similar characteristics or similar features. One of the important characteristics is that low GNP and per capita income of the or per capita cap GNP. So per capita income also very low, GNP also very low, and these underdeveloped countries. The term per capita income, which shows the standard of living of the people of the country, we can identify. People in underdeveloped countries living miserable conditions. Per capita income in underdeveloped countries is very low compared to the developed countries. Underdeveloped countries per capita income is very low compared to developed countries. So that is the reason why we can say that this is also one of the indicator. Low per capita income, low GNP. Larger income inequalities and high poverty we can observe in less developed countries. So there are no large income inequalities in distribution of income, wealth in these countries, particularly underdeveloped countries. In India, when we observe inequalities are growing according to Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, according to 2011, the wealth of 100 rich people accounted for 17% to the GDP. In developing countries, income inequalities are no higher than the developed countries. So, income inequalities must be higher in developing countries or underdeveloped countries. There is a huge poverty we can observe in less developed countries or underdeveloped countries. The absolute poverty in an important dimension of inequalities in income distribution, particularly in developing countries. Income inequalities, when we are talking about the exact, particularly that reflect these income inequalities exist in developing countries, particularly Asia, African countries, Latin American countries, that reflect the no poverty we can easily observe. Low per capita income, food scarcity, malnutrition food, ill health conditions, no scarcity of clothes and houses, which all are indicators of poverty. So we can observe the mass poverty in underdeveloped countries. Mass poverty in underdeveloped countries. So people in these countries, they are suffering from lack of income. People in this country living a low living standard of living. They are suffering from malnutrition, suffering from ill health. Illiteracy rate is very high. So people, in- particularly vicious circle poverty we observe in these countries. Vicious circle poverty we observe in these countries. You know, around 29% of the people are living, particularly, below the poverty line in India when Rangarajan Committee was estimated. According to Rangarajan Committee, 29% of the people are living below the poverty line. The another important characteristics of underdeveloped countries, predominance of agriculture sector. In underdeveloped countries, particularly, the share of agriculture sector is more in GDP. It is providing employment more, this agriculture sector. So here, this agriculture sector is, inefficient in terms of output per capita of labor because these countries, agriculture along with, allied sectors are generally, we can account for 30 to 80% of the laborers are engaged in agriculture sector. Most of the underdeveloped countries, they're depending on the agriculture sector. So most of the African, Asian countries are, depending on the agriculture sector. Almost 52% of the labor force depending on agriculture in India. So when we talk about Latin America, labor force, they are employed in agriculture, that around 20%. So productivity of labor as well as per capita unit of land, which is very lower in developing countries compared to the developed countries. Large portion of production is meant for self-consumption. That is one of the drawback. Hence, there is no sustainable availability of these countries, less marketable surplus, because whatever these underdeveloped countries people, whatever they produce, they are using for their self-consumption purpose. So old production techniques are they are using, traditional methods they are using, subsistency of cultivation, which all are defects in primary sector, that is agriculture sector, in underdeveloped countries. So agriculture country, particularly, unprogressive even in agriculture. This sector, particularly these countries, is not profitable, and there is no surplus income for these countries, because these countries are not using modern methods. They are using old production techniques, traditional methods they are using. Due to that, the productivity also very low, and also from that production they are using for their self consumption purpose. So that is the reason why this agriculture sector is predominant sector in underdeveloped countries. Population pressure also there. The main problem of this underdeveloped country like India, high population, high birth rates, that leads to falling the death rates. Automatically population pressure is there, because population growth is very high. Due to high population growth, due to the size of the population increases rapidly because of the high growth rate. So the fast rate of population growth, that highest growth rate, that leads to the maintain the standard of living also very important. So rising population that imposes greater economic burden, because the society has to put greater effort to initiate the growth process. And also that labor force, when we think the increasing with the uh, increasing population, that leads to unemployment in the country. This is one side of the population pressure. When we are talking about the high proportion of dependence, high density, according to 2011 world population density, which is only 50. In India, it is 382 according to 2011. So there are various population density are there coming to the underdeveloped countries and developed countries. See, in China, 145, America, 33 population density, and Canada only 4, and Australia only the density of population is 3. So low labor participation rate, low literacy rate, decreasing the female and male ratio, low female labor no participation, which all are features of population pressure. So population pressure also one of the characteristic, one of the future of underdeveloped countries. Unemployment and disguised unemployment. When we are talking about this, widespread voluntarily unemployment, which is one of the important characteristics of underdeveloped countries. So this unemployment in both rural and urban areas are widespread in the developing countries, and voluntarily. Population pressure in agricultural land, that is increasing due to increasing the population. That problems in the disguised unemployment, most of them engaged in agriculture sector. To avoid this type of melody, people from rural areas to often migrating to the urban areas for searching employment opportunities. So due to inadequate industrial development in these countries, particularly urban unemployment is increasing these underdeveloped countries. Laborers, they do not work full working hours. Some of they do not get work due to their education and training. Some of them are unable to earn the income sufficient to overcome the poverty after the working for their full hours. Still, they are not getting sufficient income in these countries. So these are the drawbacks due to unemployment. We can identify these countries are having unemployment rate is very high. And also scarcity of capital formation. This is also one of the important characteristics of underdeveloped countries. Underdeveloped countries, the stock of capital stock, which is very low. Capital formation is very low compared to the developed countries. So due to low poverty, due to capital formation is low, it relatively that increase the poverty rate in the country. Underdeveloped countries, their capital poor and low savings we can observe when there is a these countries particularly their income levels are very low, savings low, investment also very low in these countries. So the root cause of this capital deficiency because of low income. So inequalities, particularly income inequalities among the people. And also when we observe the ability of the people to save is very low. The saving people are very low in these countries. On the other hand, when we look into this, the rich people whose savings ability is very high, they invest their savings very unproductive channels such as gold, jewelry, precious stones, and luxuries, real estate. Money they are investing in international markets also. So the saving does not rise the with the increased income levels of the long run. So the demonstration effect also influence. That is also one of the reason. Along with that, technological backwardness, you know, in underdeveloped countries, the production techniques they are using, you know, backward. The industries activities they are using, traditional methods. And also the research development, it is not taken place. The technological backwardness is these countries are we can observe. The requirement for this, new technology which are available of capital adequate number of trained. So underdeveloped countries, there is a lack of. So underdeveloped countries particularly, they are willingly opt labor intensive technology. What does it mean? These underdeveloped countries are using more labor instead of technology. So in the absence of social security against unemployment and workers, unions suppose the introducing of labor saving technology and in industrial sectors. This is technological backwardness of these countries. The another one is economic dualism. Economies of underdeveloped countries characterized by existing of two different sectors. They may be modern traditional subsistence, particularly the sector which is modern or improved production techniques. They manage capital like they invest more on machines, buildings. They used profit motive side. Wage laborers also there. People with modern attitude we can found in these sectors. Surplus also we can output surplus output will be available. So modern sector, particularly modern economy that consisting of heavy industries, machine cultivated, modern mining operations, transportation facilities, with the help of banking, insurance, and trade, which all are high capital intensity and productivity will increase. So the modern market economy that leads to with the help of amenities of life, radio, car, train, telephone, etc., which all are comes under the foreign direct highly capabilities. So here when we talk about the particularly another important characteristic is regional dualism. Regional imbalances. The less developed countries, according to Gunnar Middle, the indicator, one of the indicator of regional dualism. He stated that the large and increased gaps between productivity and income among the regions, then there is a regional imbalances or